Hey everybody, what's up? Circus here coming at you with another new player discussion video. This time we're going to be covering structure decks because this seems to be a hot topic in our new player channel. I got Jason here with me. He wanted to get in here. He's salivating to get in here and talk about this because, like I said, this is like a big thing. New players come in and they say, should I get this structure deck? And most of the time we're saying no. But before we get to all that, how are you doing, Jason?
Hey Circus, I'm doing very well. Glad to be back here, YouTube.
Good. And then when we get into what are structure decks exactly, because we talk about them a lot, but what are they and what's the purpose behind them?
So for those of you who don't know, a structure deck is a pre-made deck that is designed to be playable right away without much modifications. And generally, most structure decks are focused on either a certain type, attribute, archetype, or a certain strategy.
Mm-hmm. Now, you say they're meant to be played right away. I'm gonna scroll down structure decks here. What about Dragonic Force and Sorcerer's Alliance?
Oh, those were like original structure decks.
Those were
Those were
terrible even back
oh,
then.
those were just oh my god, like
Yeah.
I have a list of structure decks that I noted down earlier, and those were just hot trash,
Yeah.
100% hot trash.
So basically, a lot of times what happens with the structure deck is like there's like one or two really good cards in them, right? Because they're supposed to be playable, but a lot of times they're not, like at all. So a lot of times there's just like one or two cards that you want to get out of them, like the Hero Generation one. You would probably never play this deck as is, but you can get a lot of good cards out of it. The big one out of this was the Koga, right? That was a pretty hot card.
Oh, Koga was really good. I remember
Mask
favorite hero,
Change, favorite hero.
favorite hero. Yeah, exactly.
There's World Legacy Clash. So there's like key cards in here that you want out of it. But the rest of the stuff, like you wouldn't just pick up this deck and start playing it. Usually you're picking cards out and playing them. But then there are other ones that are playable. And which ones are those?
Some of the other ones that I've noted that are really playable out of the gate, the Noble Knight structure deck, the Fire King structure deck,
Mm-hmm.
Desperado, but you need a lot more help for that deck.
Right.
The upcoming Blue Eyes Evolution structure deck, the Blue Eyes for 2021, that also so far on paper it has high potential through the roof.
So a lot of these structure decks, we'll get into the Blue Eyes here in a second. The ones that are usually supposed to be pretty good have the EX on them, right? No, Tail of the Noble Knights EX, Return of the Fire Kings EX. So those are supposedly the ones that are a little bit better than the rest of them.
Supposedly, but not always the
Right.
case. I should note that some of the lesser known but are still good Onomat to an extent. The
Mm-hmm.
Gagaga structure deck, it has some important cards like the Cowboy, the
Mm-hmm.
Zubabacho Gagaga Coat card, the Gagaga Mancer. Those are cards that are inherently needed in the Onomat strategy.
Right.
Also, another fan favorite deck that we always recommend on DLE,
Mm-hmm.
Destiny Rulers.
Oh,
That
you
deck
gotta love that when people. You're the one that cut it out of the new player thing.
that was for good reason, but I
It's
still
still a
need
good
to
deck. Yeah. It's
it's
still.
I still need to acknowledge that deck. It's great for the new players,
Yeah.
anyone who is a hero diehard, because Vion, a lot of the heroes stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's good, but again, it's better for the new players, or if you're really 100% into heroes, you go for Destiny Rulers because Vion.
Right. Now, what I noticed with a lot of these decks, we're saying that some of these are pretty all inclusive, but most of the ones that you mentioned, like Tales of the Noble Knights, we'll look at this one. This has pretty much everything you want, except you need Gwynnifer. So you're gonna have to go into a box and what is it, Brothers, Noble Arm Brothers?
Brothers as well. The
So in that case, you got to
the
go into one box, which isn't bad, and then Return of
one
the Fire
box,
Kings, same thing. You're gonna want your Arvada out of the latest mini box. So a lot
yes.
of these structure decks are like 99% complete. So you're still gonna have to go into a main box a lot of the times to complete them. So keep that in mind when you're like, should I get this structure deck? It's like, well, either you're taking like one or two cards out of it to put into another deck, or you're buying this deck and then you have to buy one or two cards to put into it, if that makes sense.
Right. I should note as well for the Noble Knight deck,
Yeah.
there's the Dark level 5 Ignoble Knight. It should
Yes.
be under the Swordbound Silence structure deck. That's
Oh, okay.
uh,
Swordbound Silence. Where's
yes,
that?
the Silent Swordsman structure deck. That
There it
again,
is.
the issue is that deck now it's not very good. But again, if you're interested in Noble Knights, instead of going through the original box to try and get it, that Dark Noble Knight is already in there in the box, 500 gems. Not the worst, but only for a rare. Depends, but again,
Or
just something to note.
you can get for $2 you get the deck and card sleeves. So,
That
so there
is
you
true.
go for $2. I'd rather do that because that $2 is a lot easier to get than that 500 gems.
Oh, that is true.
At
That
least
is
for me,
true.
anyways.
Oh yes, that is true.
So there you go. So there are ways to work around having to go into main boxes and whatnot. So one of the bigger questions we get, because if you look at these, let's look at the Noble Knight one. All right,
Yeah, sure. Let's look at it.
I'm going all over the place here,
No
but
problem. Yeah, exactly.
Noble Knights, it's a great deck. You got a lot of great cards that are exclusive to this deck in here, like Merlin, right? And then you
Merlin.
got some great reprints like Madrot, so you don't have to go into the main box and get three of them. But a lot of people see other videos that advise them to get
Yes.
one Noble Knight structure deck, and they're like, "I'm clapping right now on the ladder with this deck," and I'm like, "I'm sure you are in rookie, bronze, silver, and gold, but once you get out of there, it gets a little bit more difficult. And why don't we want to get just one structure deck?"
So if you only just have one copy of the structure deck, you're less likely to see the power cards that you need to help you win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Noble Knights as an example, Merlin is a needed starter card for your deck. Madrot is also another needed card for your deck. So by only having one, you don't you don't have the maximum consistency for your deck.
You have two starters instead of a possible six.
Possibly more than that,
Right.
Circus. But again, those are two notable cards.
Right. So if you're just playing one of each, you have two starters. But if you're playing three of each, you got six. And then obviously there's other cards you can use to get your deck started. But in that case, it's better to have more starters.
Exactly. Consistency is king in this game.
Mm-hmm. And then what else?
So a lot of the structure decks goes back to our discussion on anime bias.
Mm-hmm.
If you see, if Circus, if you go down through that list of structure decks, a lot of them go back into, they try to go for that anime flavor. The Red Eyes, the Red Dragon Archfiend. You can look at some of those, but the problem is Konami's trying to bait you into getting those decks, just for the sake of anime flavor.
Okay.
Even if you start as a new player, I've seen that Konami tries to reel you in by is like recommending you Red Eyes as a starting deck. I've seen many players and new player help get asked by this all the time. And I'm just like, guys, no, 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 no.
Well, this is
Red
a big
Eyes.
recommendation in the community. You get one Return of the Red Eyes structure deck, and that's your farming deck and your PvP deck.
My issue with that is Circus. It's not good long term.
No, it's not.
It's not good long term just because the cards in it don't really advance you anywhere. Whereas we're mentioning Noble Knights, Fire Kings, even the upcoming Blue Eyes structure deck, those have far more ceiling, far more reach.
Well, I think with a lot of these, like, yes, you can do as advertised. You can get the one Red Eyes structure deck, and you can win with it, and you can farm with it. But personally, I would take those 500 gems and try to get staples. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. I hear you on that.
Especially as a new player. Because then, because we always recommend the Amazon deck because it's basically free. And then you're
Half your
using
deck
those,
is half your deck is built via tickets.
yeah, and then you're just using those gems to buy staples. So that's why we recommend that path rather than getting a structure deck because 500 gems is 10 packs trying to get that Canadian. And that That could be your Canadian right away. You might get a Canadian in your first 10 packs. You probably won't, but you might.
Oh, it's possible. I've seen people done it. Um, you know, you pray that RNG is in your favor.
But the point is, in the beginning, if you can just put all your resources into getting those staples, it's way better than buying a red eye structure deck because in the end, what from the red eye structure deck are you going to use long term? Now you're going to say Amazon's doo doo. You're not getting King of Games with them, and you're right. We never said you would.
No, we never said you would. But here's the thing: the improved version of Amazon's can get you into Legend, played correctly.
Right.
That is.
You can get to Legend with it, and you've put very little into the deck, and you've been investing in staples. Now, if you put 500 gems into this structure deck, what are you going to be using long term? That's the whole thing, and you're still going to have to get those staples. You're still going to
Oh,
need them.
nine times out
eventually.
of 10. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to get those staples. Exactly.
You're eventually going to need Canada. You're eventually going to need Floodgate. So that's why we always advise not to get structure decks right off the bat. But that might change. That might change in the future. We're always open to suggestions, but I think this is one of our biggest new player traps right here, Return of the Red Eyes.
Oh, it's 100% a new player trap, like the biggest one of them all. Again, some others I should note, the old Neos Fusion decks,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
unless if you're new to the game, those are now not good investments for you. If you were like a
Oh,
returning player, if you had those before, that's a different story. But now it's
there
just
we go.
there's been the decks have suffered so many hits, it's just not worth
Well,
investing in as a
there's
new
what
player.
Neos Fusion, and then what's the other one? Like
Uh,
Magician of
keep
Chaos.
Magician of Chaos, where Keeper Dragon Magic
Right.
is also
So
limited to. So
yeah, same thing here. Because I think I played. I should have got the screenshot of it, but I played against the guy. Basically, his deck was like it was like one Red Eyes structure deck, one Neos Fusion structure deck, one Magician of Chaos structure deck.
I think we saw this on stream, right?
I
Circus, I
think
think.
so. The Masters of Chaos, that's what it is. It was
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
he had bought one of each structure deck and then just put the whole thing together. So that's 1,000 gems for Masters of Chaos.
Neos Fusion's also another 1,000
So that's
gems, and then
2,500 gems total you spent on that. Uh,
actually, wait, no, Noble Knights is an EX deck, so 3,000 actually.
well, no, I think the deck we saw was Neos, Return of
No,
the Red Eyes, and then Master of Fusion and
okay,
Master
so
of
that
Chaos. So it was like
so
2,500. But either way, 2,500 or 3,000 gems, that's a lot you could be spending on staples.
oh,
In the end, you're
100%.
gonna want those Canadias rather than these cards because most of them are kind of long in the tooth. I don't think there's much from the Master of Chaos deck that you can still use
Not much anymore. Maybe the
because
Dark
Keeper of
Cavalry,
Dragon Magic is
limited to 2.
limited to two, and there's nothing much else in here. People are gonna say Power of the Guardians, but that could be a whole video of itself. Um,
Yeah.
Dark Cavalry, that's a good cheese card. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I don't know.
I mean, don't like some people make turbo decks like
Right.
built regard towards it, but again, it's mainly cheese.
Yeah, it's a cheese card. It's not super meta right now.
No,
It's something if a meta deck came out, you could always go back and get. I wouldn't say this is how you want to start your account. Looking at Neos Fusion again, Neos Fusion itself is semi-limited to two. You get Neos, Braveheart Neos in here or Brave Neos.
Brave Neos is in the deck. Yep.
But besides that, I don't know if there's really much else that you're gonna want out of here. So long term,
No, long
you
term
know,
now it's not very good. So compared to
right,
Noble Knights, Fire Kings, even the upcoming Blue Eyes
right,
structure deck, those are looking to have better long term output for you currently. That is.
right. So if you're a new player, I would say still get your staples, but if you're going to get a structure deck, should we get one, two, or three of these things? Jason.
Every time I always say to people, you get 3 or you get 0.
But I'm free to play, sir.
Unless you're willing to spend money.
Right.
That's the biggest issue here. Because if you're being free to play, you can only get one structure deck at most.
Yeah.
That's the issue here right now, Circus. You and I understand this.
Right.
But then if you're being free to play, I would rather recommend an archetype from a box instead to get.
Right.
Because then it just doesn't work.
Yeah, like we were saying before, just getting one of a deck just isn't good enough. So you want to go 0 or 3. So I guess, yeah, what we're saying is you got to spend some money, and if you don't want to spend the money, just walk away. If you're tempted, you're like, I really want to play Noble Knights. Well, you're gonna spend about $20 or 1,000 gems and like $15 or something like that. It's $14. So
USD, depending on where you are in the
local
world,
conversions may apply.
conversions will apply. Yes.
Yes. So I guess that's the big thing. Just if you want to play a structure deck effectively, you're gonna have to spend money on it, and that's the whole point of them. That's the whole point of the game, is to get you to spend money. So keep that in mind.
They get you to get to spend money, but however, certain structure decks you can pay a little bit of money, not very much, as we were saying, like 15, 20 USD. Well, again, it depends on where you are in the world, but that's relatively inexpensive compared to having to whale, I don't know, $100 in the main box and trying to get one card.
Well, like Christmas is coming. You get a little bit of Christmas money. You could buy 3 Noble Knight structure decks. You get your Guinevere. You're done. I know that Ignoble Knights is nice, but you don't have to have it. You get your
No, you don't have to have
Guinevere.
it.
You get your brothers. They're in the same box. They're both really low rarities. So for like $20 and like 3,000 gems maybe. I got both those cards really quick out of the box. But I mean, you can do it really cheap. And you could have a deck that will be relevant for a couple months at least. And I know you're like, $20, I want this deck to last forever. Well, it's Yu-Gi-Oh, so we never know. But
we try to give the best options as we can. But
Noble Knights is a solid deck right now. But next month, we're getting a new box. We're getting Blue Eyes. This might be the most irrelevant deck ever after next month. We don't know.
We don't know, but we're doing the best we can with the information we have.
Right. The new box comes out. They might have anti-Noble Knight cards in them. Destroy all Noble Knights on the field. Who knows?
God forbid them. God forbid.
Well, people are like, I want to spend money in the game. What's a safe investment? And a lot of times we just don't know. And
that's the issue. Like, other than staples, sometimes we don't know what is safe.
That's why we always recommend the staples so much, because you got to be willing to let go of a deck. Because Noble Knights is hot right now, but it might get power crept really bad. Fire Kings is really fun right now, but something might get released that just makes it totally irrelevant.
Agreed completely. Yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun with the deck, but I gotta. I have the understanding that was $20 that I spent, that I may get a month out of it, and that's it.
Or it could be 6 months. Who knows?
Or it could be a year. Look at Shiranui. That was in a mini box. I mean, you could do that completely free to play, and it lasted a year.
Invoked as well. Invoked.
Or we're talking Destiny Rulers or whatever. Those cards in there, that deck was meta for a year too. That original Anki hero deck.
Oh, the original one. Yes.
That lasted for a year. So if you bought 3 of those decks back then, your cards lasted for a year. I mean, I'm not saying Noble Knights are going to get hit. It's just, you just never know. So when you put money into it, you have to be going into it like, I'm okay with losing this money. Basically.
Yeah. And here's the thing, people. This $20 could be, your best $20 compared to losing $100, $200 on throwing it into a main box, mini box. Who knows?
So let's see. Yeah, Blue Eyes is coming up, right?
Blue Eyes is coming up. You have the graphics on screen, Circus?
I don't have the graphics on screen. Should I have the graphics on screen?
I think you should, just so that the people know what we're talking about.
And bam, just like that, magic of the internet. Now we got the graphic on the screen.
Perfect. So if you're not aware, Konami, for the 4th anniversary, has announced that everyone is getting a free copy of Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon. And also in the other image, we're getting another Blue Eyes structure deck. The confirmed cards are as follows: Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon, Dragon Spirit of White, Cards of Consonance, and the White Stone of Ancients.
Nice.
So you should know that the Dragon Spirit of White was previously printed in another Blue Eyes EX structure deck.
Mm-hmm.
The White Stone of Ancients was printed in the same mini box as Noble Knights. And then Cards of Consonance was from an age-old main box, that had Dragoonides and Blackwings. I think it was Blackwing Rising or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, already from the confirmed information, Blue Eyes, the new structure deck, is looking to be as good as the Noble Knight structure deck, at least, if not better. Better than Fire Kings, even too.
Yeah. Are you pretty excited about it?
Oh, I'm pretty excited about it. Like on my main account, I already have
Yeah.
the Blue Eyes deck, so it doesn't matter. So I just get a one structure deck for the Twin Burst. But even then, I'm saying for the new players
Mm-hmm.
and anyone who's held off on Blue Eyes before because the barrier to entry was so high because it was the Cards of Constance was from a main box, the White Stone of Ancients was from a mini box. You could have easily spent, I don't know, 20, 30,000 gems trying to get multiple copies of those cards.
Right.
Now the fact that they're being packaged into one new structure deck,
Yeah, that's pretty
assuming you're
good.
willing to spend just even a little bit of money, I don't know, 10, 20 US dollars, you're getting a much better deck.
Well,
Completely.
before, yeah, I mean, to go into all these boxes, that's why we recommended to people not to play Blue Eyes when they first started the game.
Oh, exactly. But now Blue Eyes may be looking to be a much more affordable deck compared to before. I'd say a little bit more expensive compared to Noble Knights, but far more affordable than, say, Invoked,
Mm-hmm.
Element Sabers. The list goes on.
Yeah,
The
yeah. So,
only the only set I think you're gonna have to go into mainly is Judgment Force, and the other stuff that you're missing, you could probably get with Dream Tickets, the Azure Eyes, the Vermilion Dragon Mech.
yeah.
Now, I want to wait on more information about the Azure Eyes and
Mm-hmm.
possibly other dragon support. But even then, just from the confirmed information we have so far, it's already looking to be a fairly strong deck. Would you agree, Circus?
It looks pretty good. It's going to save people a lot of money. It's just, do you want to have anime bias? That's the real question, Jason.
That is a good question,
Didn't we
but
just do a video about anime bias and now you're telling everybody to buy the number one anime bias deck?
now, however, Circus,
However,
this is looking to be a much more affordable package for anime bias. Like,
yes.
so I'm willing to put my points aside and still adjust to everyone, you know?
Yeah,
The
no,
fact
that's the
that
important thing. When new information comes out, we're more than willing to change our thoughts on things.
especially the fact that from the confirmed information already, like, the again, I stress the point. This Blue Eyes structure deck is already going to reduce huge barriers to entry for people wanting to play the deck. The main things to go again to consider: Judgment Force. You're probably going to have to go into that box probably, I think, twice because you need the Spirit Dragons, the Sage with Eyes of Blue, those cards. You also need staples, staple trap cards that synergize with the Blue Eyes deck. So that's why we always recommend you get your staples first. So if if there's anything anyone should be doing right now before this new stuff drops, I believe on January the 12th of 2021, you should be saving your gems and tickets and saving your gems and tickets towards this new stuff if you're really wanting to play it.
Well,
So
you're also gonna have to get Kaiba to level 45, from what I understand, which is quite the task.
the original Kaiba, yes, because there's a card called, I think it was the Melody of Awakening Dragon. You can
Yeah,
discard
the
a,
Jack Black card.
yeah,
Looks
you
like Jack
discard a,
Black, like rocking a right
yeah, I believe you discard a card and search for two dragons with 3,000 attack
and
and
2,500 defense
2,500
or something. Like
defense.
it's
Or
like basically go get Blue Eyes.
you go get Blue Eyes, yeah. But again, like my point is that for an anime bias deck is still very relevant in the metagame right now,
Hmm.
this is looking to be hot.
Yeah, it should be a good deck. It's just it's not going to be cheap. You're going to have to spend money on it.
Again, it's not as much money compared to before, though, Circus.
Right.
That again, I should remind everyone that
Or gems, not as many gems.
not as many gems is not as much money either.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think of the whole thing then? Structure decks in general.
Again, I would my thoughts on structure decks is you have to evaluate each one individually. Uh,
Hmm.
it's a case by case basis. You can't always generalize structure decks as a whole.
Right.
The idea is to get, you know, it's a preset amount of cards, to have a strategy to play with. In the TCG, structure decks are probably some of the best products because usually Konami is willing to jam those decks with really strong cards that synergize with each other and appeal to newer players, right? So I'm glad that Konami has taken that same approach from the TCG before, and then now is doing it with a lot of these newer structure decks, Noble Knights, Fire Kings, even the upcoming Blue Eyes deck, for sure.
Yeah. And then, like we were saying before, just remember that you want to get 0 or 3. That's the big thing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the big thing. 0 or 3.
And if you're confused on which ones are good and not, just jump in our Discord and we'll help you figure that out. But basically, don't go and just buy one. That's the biggest thing we can tell you. Just don't go buy one of something.
Again, like as I was saying before, you have to evaluate each structure deck
Yeah.
individually. So again, Dragoonides was a
Oh
hot
yeah,
thing
yeah.
a hot thing a while ago. For some players, they might like it just due to the play style of Dragoonides, but also there were some good cards in there like Bad Aim, Ultimate Providence.
Right.
So again, it's not the worst thing in the world. So I would have to evaluate each case by case individually.
And then in summary, remember that either with these structure decks, you're gonna get 1 or 2 cards out of them that you like, that you need, or you're gonna buy a whole structure deck and then have to get 1 or 2 cards to put into them, if that makes sense. So either way, you're not gonna get everything you need just with the structure deck.
I'll still say you'll get most of it from the structure decks,
Right.
especially in the case of Noble Knights, Fire Kings, even the Blue Eyes coming up. You're gonna get, I'd say, 80 to 85% of what you need, and then you
Well,
need
it's
to.
like what is it, like a cake in a box or whatever, a cake mix, right? You
Yeah.
still got to add the milk and the egg. I'm just saying, and then you can mix it up, and then you get a cake.
Hey, that's a good analogy to.
Right.
That's a very good analogy, actually.
So you get most of what you need. You just got to put a little bit in it, and then it's ready to go.
But it's still a fairly good package for a cake mix, actually, especially even the Blue Eyes. Look at that. Like, look at that.
Jason loves the blue eyes. That's all I can. That's what we're gonna call this video. Jason loves the blue eyes. No, it'll be good because we're on a good string of structure decks right now, and that's good for newer players or dolphins as they call themselves, or guppies. I think some people call themselves guppies.
I think dolphins is the more appropriate term
Yes.
here,
Well, I
Circus.
think
But
there's
that's
people that spend less than dolphins, and I don't know how you do that. Maybe you just get the $1 UR sales or something like that. But
who knows? But hey, it's how they spend their money, right?
if you spend it wisely, you could have some good decks, and I think structure decks right now are pretty safe. They're good. They're gonna be good for at least a couple months. That's all I can say.
Oh, I completely agree. Like if Konami keeps this track record with especially these recent structure decks, for the newer ones down the line,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the newer players are going to see structure decks as it's not always a complete trap, but again, you have to evaluate the contents of the deck, the
Right.
power level of these decks.
Like Return of the Fire Kings is great because they like being destroyed, and a lot of the traps out there right now destroy. But
There
Karma
you
Cut
go.
obviously banishes, and then they might release a bunch of other cards that banish, and then you're in trouble. But if they don't, you're happy, right? Yeah, Ballista Squad me, go ahead. Use your Regeki break. I'm fine with that.
Exactly, 100% that. So it all depends on the
It
metagame.
it just depends what comes out, because next month they might release a bunch of banishing cards, and then you're like, oh, well, I guess my Fire Kings ain't worth anything. But then they might not, and you're like, we're in there, baby, Fire Kings, let's go.
Exactly.
So just keep that in mind. I think that's the hardest thing telling people is we never know what's going to happen next. So it's hard to say because people are always like, what's a safe investment? And it's like, there's no safe investment in this game. There's just luck, basically.
Yep, exactly. So me and Circus, what we're trying to tell you guys is we don't like to speculate. We're just trying to give you accurate information as much as we can to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
The
This,
problem is what Konami decides to do
right.
later.
What are they going to do with it? Yeah. Exactly. All right. I think we covered it all pretty well.
I think we did, yeah.
So make sure to get in our Discord because that's where we host all of our tournaments. It's free for the Discord, it's free for the tournaments. And we got a great new player help channel where people like Jason hang out 24 hours a day answering questions.
I gotta sleep, Circus.
I
So
know, but
not always fun.
we have other people in there doing it all the time. So make sure to get in there and get your questions answered. And what else? Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out the Twitch channel. And I think that's about it. So we're gonna get out of here. I'm Circus. That's Jason.
Peace, YouTube.
We'll see you next time.